Hi, I'm Deborah Dashinger. Welcome to the Dare to Dream radio show. We are on every week on 92.5 KYHY.com here in beautiful downtown Burbank, California. We are also on TogiNet, TOGINet.com. Look under Dare to Dream. Armed Forces Network tunes in. We thank you for that. And you can catch us on iTunes Podcast, YouPublish.com, where we won the Intriguing Creator Award, and also we were an award nomination consideration for the 2010 Gracie Awards, which for us is quite a big deal. If you would like any information, please go to our website, www.deborah.dashinger.com. We've got a Facebook fan page. Check us out, Dare to Dream, radio and TV interviews, and excellent ad rates for a global, worldwide campaign. Well, let's get right to the subject today, because it's really about steps. What are you doing with your life? Where are you headed? Do you know? And what action steps have you taken today? I'm going to tell you some stories about some people who had a real passion. They were given gifts, a passion, they did something with it, and certainly ended up impacting all of us in one way or another with the choices they made and who they made of themselves. So reflect on this and some of the interesting turns that these people made. First story is about someone by the name of Alfred Newman. Alfred Pappy Newman was a composer, a film composer. He won 9 Oscars. He worked on films like Airport and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. His brother, Lionel Newman, was also a film composer who scored the film Dr. Dolittle. Then you might know his nephew, Randy Newman, who followed in the family tradition and has scored many films and is definitely an award winner and a very, very working composer himself. Well, Alfred Newman, for some reason everyone was fascinated with his name, and the Henry Morgan radio show borrowed it for one of their characters. Years later, some cartoonists needed a mascot for their magazine, and they didn't know who to name this toothless, grinning, red-headed boy. So they said, well, let's take that same name from the Henry Morgan show from that film composer. So they named the What Me Worry Kid Alfred E. Newman. The next Alfred is Alfred Nobel. Alfred was born in Stockholm in 1833. His family then moved to Russia, where he worked in his father's munitions factory. Now, nitroglycerin was discovered, and Alfred was so fascinated by it, he kept working with it to discover uses. Then he went back to Sweden, and he worked in an explosives research lab with his brother. Most unfortunately, in 1864, the lab exploded, killing his brother Emil. But he kept working despite the tragedy, and he discovered dynamite. And with the discovery of dynamite came fame and fortune, and he was quite rich. But Alfred Nobel did not want to be remembered for the discovery of dynamite. So he took his entire fortune and he used the money to bestow a gift every year to someone he felt was doing something very significant for mankind. And funded by the dynamite fortune, Alfred created the Nobel Peace Prize. Next is Max Factor. Thank you, Max, who was born in Russia in 1877. It's pretty fascinating because before this man came along, there was no such thing really as makeup. Maybe Cleopatra, but not much before that for common women. At 14, he was an apprentice in a wig shop. At 20, he was working in a cosmetic shop. He moved to America and opened his own makeup shop. Then he moved to Hollywood. He was working at the Pantages Theater. At the same time, motion pictures started, and they found that the dye grease they were using in black and white films were not translating to color films. In fact, it looked awful. So they enlisted Max Factor, and he had nothing to go by because they didn't have anything in that time. So he literally created false eyelashes, eye pencil, lip gloss, and pancake makeup, which looked fabulous in the movies. Then the actresses had to go to their screenings and wanted to look great also for photographs. So Max Factor designed a line for them to use for that. Well, the non-theatrical consumers were watching all these actresses and said, I want to look like that too. So in 1927, Max Factor created the very first line of cosmetics for women. I suppose for men too. However, I think it was intended at that time for women. And after 1927, the word makeup became popular, as did the wearing of it. Thanks again, Max. Next person up, Hector Boiardi. Hector, as you might guess, was an Italian immigrant who moved to America. He worked at the Plaza Hotel in New York, and then he moved to Cleveland, and he was making a pasta sauce. He made it, and people loved it, so they started to buy it. And in 1929, they started asking for it because they said, we want to make this at home. Well, he kept experimenting, and he started adding to his sauce some cheese, some pasta, and then it started selling in stores and was flying off the shelves. They couldn't even keep it. So Chef Hector remained an advisor in the canned pasta business until his death at 87 in 1985. And yes, that is Chef Boyardi's actual picture on the can. And the last name you might know, James Bond. James Bond was actually a real person, indeed. He was an ornithologist who wrote bird books. Well, Ian Fleming was living in Jamaica, and he was writing a book about 007, a secret agent, but he wanted a name for this character, this British agent who was unromantic and masculine, and he saw the book, and he saw the author's name, James Bond, and said, that would be terrific for my spy. So he stole it, essentially, and started using it. Years and years later, the real James Bond and his wife found out about it, and his wife very laughingly wrote to Ian Fleming and said, I think we should sue you for defamation of character. And Ian Fleming very laughingly wrote back to them, I must confess that your husband has every reason to sue me. In return, I can only offer your James Bond unlimited use of the name Ian Fleming for any purpose he may feel fit. So James Bond is still with us today. Remember, all these stories, there was a passion that they followed until the goal was not only achieved, but for most of them superseded, and it left some kind of a legacy for us today. What is your next step? What is your goal? Because you must take action in order to get where you want to go. Patience. Have patience to see it through to the end. Have perseverance. Have faith. All important. And let your vision, hold on to that vision of success, because that's what will lead you through. Just like a kite through the wind, let that vision take you through to where you want to go, where you want to be, and who you feel you are intended to be in this lifetime, and who you already are inside. It's essential to start what you finish, and the next step is what you must do. I encourage you to take it. Vince Lombardi said, the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. This is Deborah Dashinger with the Dare to Dream radio show. Tune in again next week, and we love having you. Don't just dare to dream, dare to make your dreams a reality.